Okay, folks, good evening. The subject of tonight's class is the month of Iyyar, what is called the month of Iyyar in Hebrew, the second month after Passover. As everybody probably knows, the months of the year form a particular. Just one second. Yep. The months of the year form a particular quality, as do the days of the year. The months of the year really begin from the Hebrew month of Nisan, but the days of the year begin from the first of the Hebrew month of Tishrei. That's the Jewish New Year. The first of the month of Tishrei is called Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. But the months begin their own, have their own beginning, which is the month of Nisan, the month that just passed away, the month in which Passover occurs. Now, why is this the case? This is the case because the Jewish calendar really depends on two sources of time. One source of time, or rather counting time, is the sun, the cycle of the sun, which, as everybody knows, the solar year is about 365 and a quarter days approximately. But there's also a lunar calendar. The lunar calendar is only 354 days approximately. It's 11 days shorter than the solar cycle, than the solar year. And therefore, every few years, there is 7 times in 19 years, there is a leap year in the Jewish calendar. In other words, the intercalation of another month, the second Adar, right? There's 2 Adars in a Jewish leap year. In any event, as far as the months are concerned, Iyyar, the month that we're in now, the Hebrew month that we're in now, is the second month of the Hebrew calendar of months. Now, according to the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formations, this was a book that was teachings from Abraham. It was never written down until the time of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva wrote it down, at least that's our tradition, that the teachings come from Abraham, but the actual writing was written down by the famous 2nd century sage, Rabbi Akiva, because of the fear that it would get lost. The teachings would get lost due to the Roman occupation and conquest and so on and so forth. So it was written down in the form of Sefer Yetzirah. It's a very enigmatic and mysterious work, and there are a lot of very insightful ideas, and some of them are just mysteries, completely mysterious. In any event, one of the features of the Sefer Yetzirah, one of the most prominent or clear ideas found in Sefer Yetzirah, is that we can divide the world into 3 areas, divide things into 3 areas of importance, called Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. Olam meaning world, or space, if you like. Shana, year, or time. So we have space and time. And Nefesh is soul, space, time, and soul, or space, time, and being. And each of these has a particular emphasis in different months of the year. So in terms of the actual months themselves, the month that's emphasized at this point in time is the month, in other words, the time factor is the month of Iyyar, the month that we're in now. I'll just write it in the chat box. Iyyar. Right? Or actually, if you would really spell it, I suppose, in English, you would leave just one Y. You'll see why I'm doing it like that shortly. So there's Iyyar, is in time. And then when we're talking about space, So the Sefer Yetzirah says that the space aspect or the world aspect, the space aspect of this month is the shor. Shor means an ox, literally. And in terms of the constellations, it is the constellation of Taurus, right? Taurus, Shor, constellation of Taurus. But we don't focus very much on the idea of the constellations themselves, but on the symbol that represents them. So the symbol that represents this month is the symbol of the ox. Now, what does that mean? The symbol of the ox is, what does an ox represent? First of all, something very powerful, very, very powerful. Something very dangerous if it's not harnessed properly, and something very useful if it is harnessed properly. So that's what the month of Iyyar represents. If it is harnessed properly, if the power of Iyyar is the power of the ox is used in the right way, then it can produce many, many crops. There's a verse that says, Rav Tvuot b'koach shor. There are many crops that can be brought forth with the power of an ox. It used to be, in the old days before they had tractors and things like that, they would, the animal that pulled the plow was generally an ox. Not horses, as I think were more common in England and probably in America, but actually oxen, which were much stronger. And also there were more oxen around at that time than there were horses. I think horses were a later introduction from elsewhere. There weren't so many horses in, it seems, in the Middle East, although there were, but not so many. We know that there's Arabian horses and things like that, Arabian steeds, but certainly in the area of Israel, the shore, the ox was much more common. In any event, whatever historically it was, doesn't really matter. The point being that the power of an ox is what concerns us over here as far as world, as far as space is concerned, and we'll have to understand how these work. So again, there's, in terms of time, it's Iyyar, the month of Iyyar. In terms of space, it is the ox. And in terms of soul, it is called the right kidney, the right kidney. Now, when we say soul, we don't mean the disembodied soul. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what we're talking about in terms of soul means the soul within the body, the life force of the body. And the life force of the body that's focused on in this particular month is the right kidney, the right kidney. That's Olam Shana Nefesh, space, time, and being, the internal organ, the life-giving organ of the right kidney. Now, what are the kidneys? The Torah talks about the kidneys as being klayot yoatzot, the kidneys that give advice. Now, why is it that kidneys are associated with giving advice? Now, what's the function of a kidney in the body? Come on, folks, write in the chat. Let's see if you know what your kidneys are up to. Cleansing, that's right. Filter. They filter out all the muck from the body. They're filters, right? So the idea, therefore, of the right kidney is one of the aspects of filtration. The truth is, anatomically, I'm not sure what the difference between the right and left kidney is in terms of anatomy, if there's any difference between them. Certainly, spiritually, there's a difference between them. But it is a process of filtration. There's two aspects of filtration, essentially. One is, the left is a spare. One is called the Birur Rishon, and then there's Birur Sheni. There's the first cleansing and the second cleansing. Now, the idea of cleansing is, first of all, the idea of cleansing out the liquids of the body, some of which comes out as urine, as someone just pointed out, But the other one is, the other purpose of cleansing is to cleanse liquids so that the body can use them in the blood and various other things that become part of the system, and they have to be cleansed for that. So it's part of the absorption process as well of the body to cleanse out and to clean out all the impurities and so on and so forth. So we're starting to get an idea of what it is that Iyyar represents in terms of what it is that we are supposed to do. It's a time, essentially, Iyyar is a time, therefore, of cleansing. It's a time of spiritual accounting. What needs fixing up over here, and therefore what needs cleansing. That is why the month of Iyyar is also the initial letters of the words, I'll write in Hebrew first, Ani, wait a second, sorry. I'm writing it wrong here. Yeah, Ani Hashem, so I'm looking in the dark over here. Ani Hashem Rofecha. Oh, what happened here? Huh. All right, 1 second here. Let me just see what's going on. 1 second. Okay, never mind. Seems that everything's okay. I don't know. All right, seems that something happened there. I don't know exactly what happened, but okay. Never mind. We're doing all right. There's some strange things going on, but nevertheless. Okay, so Ani Hashem Rofecha. If you look at the first initial letters, right? So you see the letters of Aleph, Yud, and Resh. Aleph, Yud, and Resh spells the word Iyyar, right? Oh, I didn't put it up. Here we go. Right? Now it is Iyyar, which is sometimes spelled with one Yud and sometimes spelled with two Yuds. Iyyar. So Ani Hashem Rofecha is I am God who heals you. It's the month of healing. As Yael points out, it's the reabsorption of good chemicals, etc., into the body after they've been purified. After the kidneys have taken out and purified and filtered and sifted through all the things that need to be removed. So Iyyar therefore represents a time of sifting, a time of purification. It's a time of purification. And indeed, Iyyar is the month that falls between Passover and the next month, and the next holiday is the holiday of the giving of the Torah called Shavuot. So when Iyyar falls between the two of these, it is, in other words, the time of preparation, of cleansing, in order to be pure to receive the Torah, to receive the divine teachings. Okay. There's another analog of this idea of Iyyar, and that is that it represents the three patriarchs, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Rachel. Three patriarchs and one of the matriarchs. If you have a look, again, you'll see the Aleph, Yud, the Yud, and the Resh. And that's why I spelled Iyyar up here previously as, I spelled it as I-Y-Y-A-R, right? Iyyar representing Abraham. That's Abraham, so the Aleph is represented in English by an I, but it would be an A really, and we transliterated it properly. So Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Rachel. So those three, the three patriarchs and the matriarch, Rachel, are also represented in these months. Why? Because the most important thing of this month is to bring a balance between the qualities that are represented by the three patriarchs and to bring them into actuality through Rachel, the matriarch. So, Abraham, as we know, Abraham represents the idea of chesed, of kindness. Yitzchak is more the idea of severity, but not severity in a negative sense. It's withholding oneself or self-restraint. So Abraham is kindness, spreading out kindness to everybody, whereas Yitzchak, Isaac, is the idea of self-restraint. Yaakov, Jacob, is that which mediates between these two, the Sphira of Tiferet being the mediator between Chesed and Gvura, that which balances them out. It's the quality of truth. So there's Chesed, kindness, Gvura, self-restraint, and Tiferet, or Rachamim, compassion and truth, which is represented by Jacob. Those three qualities are things that need to be worked on during the month of Iyyar in order to bring it into a proper balance. But it's not enough simply to have these emotional qualities in a proper balance. The idea of love, or kindness, self-restraint, and compassion, leading to truth. But it also must be brought into reality. That is what Rachel represents, the bringing forth of these qualities into our daily lives and into our world. Okay. Now, each month is also associated with a tribe. And the tribe, because there are 12 tribes, and the 12 months of the year. So this month's tribe is the tribe of Yisachar. Yisachar, or let me just write it over here. Yisachar, I think it's usually spelled in English just with an I, Yisachar. Anyway, what were they famous for? Yisachar, they were famous for their ability, their tremendous, they were gifted intellectually. And the tribe of Yisachar, many of them were on the rabbinical court called the Sanhedrin, the highest rabbinical court, the supreme rabbinical court called the Sanhedrin, which consisted of 70 members, 71. And many of the members of Yisachar many of the members of the Beit Din were actually from the tribe of Yisachar. They were also teachers and generally people who were very adept at learning, understanding, and bringing their understanding into practical, consequential action. That's what Yisachar was famous for. And therefore, the sense that is associated with the month, as we've spoken about before, each month has a sense associated with it. Normally, we only speak of the 5 senses, which is obviously seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling. But again, in Kabbalah, in the Sefer Yetzirah, each month has a sense. There are many more senses than just the 5. There are, in fact, 12 senses. So the sense for this month is the sense of Iyun. It is called Iyun. What does Iyun mean? Iyun means the ability to look deeply into things to get to the essential core of what it is all about. It's called Iyun, the ability to delve deeply into ideas, deeply into concepts, in order to get to the very core idea, which is at the heart of that concept, whatever it may happen to be. So we can see how this works together with Yisachar, because they were known to be people who had this ability, they had this knack, they had this sort of as a gift, the ability of Iyun to delve into things. Therefore, the Sfirot that are associated particularly with the month of Iyyar, it's actually not so much the Sfirot, but the channel. There are also 12 channels that are spoken about. The channel between 2 Sfirot is also represented. 12 channels that are spoken about in Sefer Yetzirah over here. And these 12 channels are represented in one in each month. So the one of this month, this particular month, the month of Iyyar, is the channel that goes from Keter to Bina, from the crown to the Sphira, which represents understanding. In other words, from the state of transcendent thought to the state of grasped thought, thought that is grasped. Keter represents that level which essentially transcends thought and corresponds sometimes to delight and sometimes to will. Will and delight are not actually located in the brain, they're in the whole person. They transcend a particular vessel. They're not found in a vessel as such. The channel connecting the will or a person's sense of delight, his feeling of delight with understanding, is this month's channel, the channel between Keter and Bina, which represent, what is a channel there for? The channel is really a two-way channel. On the one hand, the idea is to bring those things down which are on a level of incomprehensible, beyond intellect, and to bring them down in whatever way possible into understanding. That's the channel from above to below. And then there's the channel of from below to above. From below to above is to move from understanding to transcending understanding, to going beyond understanding, going beyond knowing to that which cannot be known, that which cannot be understood, which is in Keter. So the channel works both ways. That's the whole concept of Iyun. Delving deeply into a subject is in order to come from the concept to the idea of nothingness, which is represented by Keter. Keter is sometimes called Ayin, nothingness. Why is it called Ayin? Not because it's not there, not because it doesn't exist, but because it doesn't exist in the dimensions and measurements and limitations of the world that we find ourselves in, of this world. It's beyond the computations and the measurements of the world. And therefore, the idea of Iyyar, the idea of Iyun, is to move from what is understood to what is not understood. There's a rabbinical expression that says, Tachlis hayediah asher lo neida'acha. The pinnacle of knowledge is to come to not knowing. Not knowing that is below knowledge, but not knowing that is beyond knowledge. Because essentially, godliness ultimately cannot be fitted into the vessels of human understanding, into the strictures and limitations of human understanding. And therefore, the whole idea of Iyun is to get beyond understanding to the ayin, to the nothingness behind it. The nothingness is just nothingness. It's called nothingness because it's not understood, but it's there. It's there more than the somethingness is there. Because the somethingness is finite, it's limited. But the nothingness is infinite, it's unlimited and unconstricted. And that represents, obviously, the idea of Ein Sof, the infinite one. So those are some of the ideas that are associated with the month of Iyyar. But to go back to an idea that we spoke about before, it is also a time of I am God who heals you. I am God, your doctor. The whole concept of healing that we come to in this month, the idea of healing is not healing that comes necessarily after illness, but the healing which prevents illness. In other words, the healing which is essentially, what does healing mean? Healing, really, the word to heal in English is from the word to make whole, or from the root to make whole. And really that's what it is. The month of Iyyar tries to make us whole by attaching us to that which is beyond ourselves. when a person is attached to godliness in every way possible, when he's bringing God's will down into understanding and ultimately into action, from will to understanding to emotions, the emotions Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob representing chesed, gvura, tiferet, or kindness, chesed, gvura, self-restraint, tiferet, compassion, and truth, and bringing that down ultimately to Rachel, to Rachel, which is the idea of action, proper action in this world, then a person becomes whole because he's connecting the very highest levels with action in this world. And that is the state of well-being. That's the state of complete health. So this month, therefore, represents an idea of healing, but without being ill. Okay. In a sense, it's preventive, but it's more than just preventive medicine. It's making whole medicine. It's medicine that makes us whole. It's the medicine of the soul, essentially, that makes us whole, and therefore a person will not come to illness. What is the idea of choleh? It's explained in Kabbalah, actually, that the word choleh in Hebrew. Let me just write it here. Choleh. If anyone knows what the knows gematria, yeah. So what is the gematria of the word choleh? Anyone know? 49. That's right. 49, right? The numerical value, every letter in Hebrew has a numerical value. And the numerical value of the word choleh is 49, which means that the person is missing, that's why it's said explaining Kabbalah, he's missing the 50th gate. There's 49 gates, and then the 50th gate. What's the 50th gate? The 50th gate is the 49 days of the counting of the Omer, which is what we're in now, and then we get to the 50th level, the 50th gate, which is Shavuot, the giving of the Torah. So a person is a choleh when he's missing the 50th part, when he's missing the Torah. He might have everything else, but he's missing the essential part, the 50th. The 50th is given from above. It's a gift. We only count 49 days. We don't count 50 days in the Omer. We count 49. The 50th day is the day of Shavuot, the day of the celebration of the giving of the Torah. So a person is choleh, he's ill when he's missing the 50th level. All of our work now during the month of Iyyar is to take us to that place where we connect to the 50th level, which is called Iyyar Hashem al Sinai. God comes down on Mount Sinai. In other words, a revelation of godliness in this world. Okay, there we go. That's it for today. Are there any questions?